Assalamu alaikum and very good afternoon to everyone present here. I'm Rujda Server, currently serving as the Public Secretary of the Buraaq Association. On the behalf of our entire team, I warmly welcome you all to today's webinar. Ladies and gentlemen, it is an absolute honor for me to introduce our distinguished guest speaker today, a man whose career journey reflects leadership, excellence, and global impact. Colonel Farooq H. Malik, retired, served with distinction in Pakistan Army for over 2 decades and later brought his expertise to the corporate world, working across Pakistan, the Middle East, and Africa. From leading human resources in global telecom giants like White and Watim, to holding key leadership positions in DHA, PDCL, AWT, and the International Trade and Development Group in Qatar. His contributions have been truly remarkable. He is not only a certified HR and quality professional, but also an accomplished trainer, project manager, and aviation safety expert with certifications from institutions in Pakistan and the United States. Currently, he serves as Director, Technical and Member Board of Directors at the Rawalpindi Waste Management Company. Please join me in giving a warm virtual welcome to the incredibly accomplished Colonel Farooq H. Malik. Over to you, sir.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Hope I am audible and readable to you people. Please just acknowledge me through your thumb up.
Yes, you are audible.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, it's indeed a matter of pleasure and at the same time a privilege for me to be in front of a future of Pakistan. That means youth. And the objective is to share a very, very important mind sciences related subject details with an objective that you should be able to develop yourself well, be a good social person in the society in which you are living, and be a successful professional. So with this little premise, we would be today talking about emotional intelligence, and the caption which has been given to me by your Buraaq team was that we should go with this caption, a tool to understand yourself and lead better. There couldn't be a better definition of emotional intelligence than this one line caption. Before we get started with the formal process, I would like to introduce my organization with you, which is basically sort of owned by me, managed by me, and founded by me. The organization name is The Enablers. We are into human resource development, starting from the school level up to the university level, to the extent that we even undertake the intervention where we educate, rather give the better skills to the university faculty as well. At the same time, we are into two more functions. That is that we educate our society and we undertake the project related to municipal solid waste management. And by virtue of my aviation background, I have spent more than 25 years in Army aviation. So on the basis of that, we do provide consultancy to the upcoming airlines. Like we have been involved with Air Sial. Now we are involved with the a group which is undertaking a venture of creating their own runway, own airline at Faisalabad as well. Okay. So with this little premise, we come down to the what are the session objectives for today. Okay. So the objective which have been set forward for today's session are that first of all, we would be, you would agree that without without any theoretical framework of anything, may it be emotional intelligence, may it be anything, without getting to know the nitty-gritty of the theoretical framework, it is very difficult to understand the concept. And of course, its operational implementation is equally difficult. So first of all, we'll be going into the detail that what is EI, and then after that, we would be going for another understanding that what do exactly we understand by self-awareness, meaning by that our knowing about our own self, how important it is to become a good leader. And then we'll be talking about the recognition of emotional triggers and patterns, which are equally important for your performance while you are leading the team or even while you are a team player. At every place, they are equally applicable and they are equally recommended to be followed. And then we would be talking about the application of strategies for emotional regulation and empathy. And we'll be talking one by one in detail about all these things. And then we'll begin creating a personal EI improvement plan, which might as well be a sort of a, you can call it own time homework for you. And I would be too glad to sort of receive that back to me and to give it sort of a, to vet it. I'll not say that I'll do the sort of examination of that. To vet it, that would basically give you understanding that how well you have understood the subject. And of course, it would satisfy me also that how well I have been able to put across the knowledge base to the class. Okay, so the module 1 revolves around definition and importance of EI. Then we would be talking about EI versus IQ and its leadership effectiveness. Then we'll go for Coleman 5 components, which are basically around which the whole of your emotional intelligence evolved. And then we would be talking about the real world leadership as an example, that how and at one point, what point, who used the EI, and ultimately the results were outstanding. So first of all, we'll be going for the definition, that what is the meaning of emotional intelligence. So gentlemen, as you can see on the slide also, emotional intelligence is known as emotion quotient, refers to the ability of perceive, understand, manage, and utilize emotions effectively both in oneself and amongst the others. If you compare EI with EQ, there you would be finding the difference, because EQ basically brings you to a certain level. So, sorry, I stand corrected. I'm referring to IQ. IQ is basically, if you really want to know the layman's language of IQ, it is more of the amount of common sense a gentleman or lady has. And the more you have, the better it is. The more you apply, the good result you get. So we can say that based on your this IQ, you can plan your academic pursuit. You can identify that what is your aptitude. Let me share with you the importance of aptitude. I'll take you, or I'll draw your attention toward the famous stanza or famous verse of Allama Iqbal, where he says, "Kahariyo, Ghafariyo, Kudusiyo, Jabrut, ये चार अनासिर हों तो बनता है मुसलमान." Drawing parallel from this, I have sort of identified in my own humble capacity that what all are the traits which are required to make someone a successful professional or a successful social part of a society. So if we start jotting down those four, the first is your aptitude. And by aptitude, what I mean is that before getting into your academic pursuit, that is pre-engineering, pre-medical, IT, humanities, any level, you should be able to identify that what is the subject which is more inclined towards my ease, my liking, and I feel more comfortable. So, and then once you do your function sort of studies, then you go for the undergrad studies, then you go for the postgrad studies, and toward the end, if you pick up the profession or the job title which is in line with your aptitude and with your all academic pursuit, well, then you are a star of a future, and nobody can sort of make you fail, because you are that machine which has the capacity and capability to take a vertical takeoff. Whereas if we see in our society, there are so many disconnects. I'll not criticize anyone. I'll just make mention of few examples. Your King Edward doctors are doing as policemen. Your barristers are doing as anchors. So this is basically an indication that they just got into the academic pursuit without identifying their aptitude, and as a result, toward the end of the day, they found themselves struggling, and then they are going for switch over from one profession to another, and to another one, like that, right? So having identified that aptitude is the foremost thing which every professional needs before getting into a professional framework. This is followed by the selection of subject which you do in your undergrad, and then of course the job, if you are lucky enough that you get a job in accordance with your aptitude, in accordance with your education, so we can call you a good, aligned, and a successful professional, right? So here we'll go for the detailed definition. Whereas we talked about EI, now we talked of IQ. It is a cognitive abilities combination where it gives you logical reasoning, problem solving, and analytical skill. In other words, it's a combo of your intelligence, that how good, how well is your common sense, and how well you can identify. At the same time, EQ refers to the aptitude for understanding and managing emotion. So let me put it like this, that your academic pursuit identification is equally dependent upon your EQ. But from there onward, once you get into your profession, the one who is more stronger in the emotional intelligence, he or she carries the day. We'll be just talking about the 5 components which are being identified by a famous social scientist, Golemans. I mean, people pronounce it in a different way, but I call it Golemans, right? He says that your self-awareness is the most important thing. Whether you agree with me or not, but you have to look into your, peep into your neck, or into your inside you, that the amount of knowledge about your own self you have about yourself, I don't think that anybody else could be having this much knowledge about you. Now it is up to you to make use of that knowledge about your own self, that sort of to overcome or hide your weaknesses and to capitalize your strong points to become a successful person. Then comes the self-regulation. And ladies and gentlemen, let me share with you, self-regulation on the face of it is a very, very simple English word, but it means a lot. That having known yourself, having identified your strengths and weaknesses, how well you regulate yourself, how well you maintain a balance of life in your private life, in your professional life, in your social life. Then comes your level of motivation. And if I understand it correctly, you all must be very familiar with what is motivation. But let me share with you that what is the difference between, I'm talking of purely professional world people, a motivated and a non-motivated employee. I'll just give you a small example. You know, there was an organization where one letter was to be delivered to one of the client. One of the dispatch rider or orderly who was responsible for delivering the mail from one point to another, he went to the dispatch office and he was handed over that envelope that go and deliver it to so and so. The gentleman goes there, and on reaching there, he finds that there is that company where he was to go and letter has moved away from there, and they don't maintain the same address. Now that gentleman comes back howling, shouting, scolding the dispatch people that you have wasted my time, you even don't know where they are, and blah blah blah. Now here comes another example. There is another gentleman who was given the same task. He goes there on finding the same situation where they have moved away. He goes to the right and left places, asks the people, there used to be a company with this name over here. Can you identify or can you direct me where have they gone? And on getting to know their new address, he goes there. He tells them that whenever you change your location, please do inform your business partners and all that. Give them the letter, come back and tell the dispatch office that please amend the letter, that the address of that organization. So this extra mileage, which that second resource had made, starting from reaching there, going to the right place and delivering, this is basically indicator of the motivation, that that gentleman was a motivated employee. He had the element of ownership, and he thought that probably he has been tasked to deliver this letter to the concerned people, so he has to follow all the possible means to do that. So I hope I have made you understand that any extra mileage which any employee undertakes is basically a motivational driven, and it is out of the extra mileage which they take because of the ownership, commitment, and having pride in that particular organization where they are serving. Okay, now we come to the empathy. I'm not very sure that is there any mode that I can ask question and you can respond to that. If that provision is there, so I would just like anyone out of you to just share with me that what is his or her understanding of this word empathy. Anyone? That might as well help me also to get to know that what is the level of understanding amongst everyone. Anyone? So I don't know whether this question has been received or if it has been received anyway. So without getting into any wastage of time, let me show you. Correct. Laiba has given a very, very pertinent this response on this. Let me put it further more detail, and that says that, you know, whenever you want to empathize someone, so you need to put yourself into his or her shoes. You understand what I'm trying to say? Meaning by that, to feel the heat, you have to assume the same position, same attitude, same environment, and then you ask yourself that what is the response. So basically, if you have the knowledge about this and you have the tendency to practice this, I can assure you, you would never ever go wrong against the humans. Because whenever you empathize about somebody, you would get to know that whether this empathy is going to give a positive ripples or it is going to give negative and repulsive ripples. So if in case of any negativity, you got to hold yourself. So this is basically very important, that you must, yes, I agree. Ikra Riaz, you are equally right. But bottom line is that you really have to feel the heat which the other gentleman and lady is undergoing. May it be a group of employees, may it be an individual, may it be, it is very easy to criticize somebody. I am a very strong believer of that. Whether he's a political leader, whether he's a military leader, whether he's a whatever. But it is very difficult to give objective criticism after having empathized the situation, and that would give you that irrespective the decision or the response or the reaction which you were getting on the face of it, it might as well be irritating you. But having empathized, you might as well reconcile with the situation. No, I think he or she had the right to respond it like this. So if we start giving this type of space to our colleagues in the organization, in our houses, in the society, I think half of our problems would be over. Then we come to the social skills. They are very important. Your social skill means that how well you present yourself, what is your level of communication, and what is your credibility, what is the amount of trust people enjoy while interacting with you. So this combination of all these social skills, they also play a very, very important role, because the more explicit, the more meaningful is your communication, the better response you are likely to get. Though in proceeding slides, we'll be talking more about it, but let me share one thing very important. There is another thing which is, we call it non-verbal communication. Your non-verbal communication has to be very strong in terms of reading the other mind, or in terms of even controlling your own self. Let's move to the next one, please. Next slide. Yeah. Okay. So self-awareness revolves around four things: understanding emotional self-perception. I wonder if you have heard the word, very famous mind sciences, one of the group of knowledges, we call it NLP, where N stands for neuro, L stands for linguistic, and P stands for programming. As per the neuro-linguistic programming knowledge, EI is, by the way, one of the dimension of that. They say the difference between human and non-human is that whenever you receive something in the form of a verbal noise communication, in the form of a physical communication, in the form of a body language, the non-humans, though they are living beings, they don't have the capacity to evaluate that type of communication. And the answer is, if there is a dog, he barks, the other dog would bark back. So that means they don't have the capacity to understand that what is the message or what is the philosophy behind that first bark, and they respond to that. Whereas God has been very kind with the humans. We have been given a very, very additional brain, which basically helps us in identifying and evaluating. I can just share with you, start applying this thing. Whenever somebody or you are being approached with something unwanted, which you don't like, so instead giving an instant reaction, the way non-human gives, if you wait for say few minutes even, and by that time your collation process in your mind or evaluation process in your mind might as well give you hell lot of a stability, and then your response would be much more rational as compared to the one which you would be giving immediately on receiving that. If you apply it in your professional world, I just give you one example, and you must try it. That whenever and wherever you find someone giving you or sending you an aggressive message, may it be on the WhatsApp, may it be on any social media tool or even email, my advice is just apply this thing and try it. Don't reply for, unless it is very urgent, don't reply it for 24 hours. Meaning by give a gap of 24 hours. After 24 hours, then compare your reply and response, sorry, with what you had immediately on receiving the, at the time of once you received that message. You find a large gap between the two, and then by virtue of having a stable mindset to respond, you would be finding. So keep this thing in mind. One is go for a proactive communication. Second is don't respond in a reactive manner. And once you collaborate empathy, I use another word. One is reactive, one is proactive. There is one word which is a superlative of all three, and that is predictive. You should be able to identify that what response by virtue of your empathy and prediction this particular communication would have on the recipient, and then you should be prepared for that. And if you are expecting or anticipating a negative response, please don't go ahead for that. Right now, we'll be what we will be doing is this recognizing the emotional trigger. We'll be talking about that. Then using the Jory window for self-discovery, and then we'll be talking about the clarity in communication. Now we'll be just having a look at all these four one by one. Next slide, please. Please move to the next slide. Yes. Okay. No. Preceding one, the last one. Okay. Understanding emotional perception, we have already talked about that self-awareness and ability to understand one's own emotion, thoughts, action, and at the same time, it involves recognizing your own strength, recognizing your weaknesses, values. Like if you are confronted with a person, neither you can compete him or her on the knowledge base nor physically, and even in terms of your social position. So the best strategy is, instead of banging into that person and getting a very harsh response, why not to avoid that situation and look for that time and place where you are equally compatible, you are in a position to sort of somebody has a question. Can someone please, can you repeat the question? Somebody has written a question. By the time I could read it completely, it has been taken off. Anyway, so developing self-awareness is again lead to the greater emotional intelligence, and it gives you improved relationship and everything. Recognizing the emotional trigger. Ji, aap kya ji, as a military leader, how did you apply emotional intelligence? Okay. You know, first thing I talked about that you should be having two things other than your position, because the leaders don't talk from the position, they talk from the leadership model, and they talk like they don't talk from this that I am your senior, so I've got all the rights. If you come with this approach, you momentarily you might as well get some response, but in the long run there would be okay, fine, got it. So I'm just responding this question which came abruptly. First thing is that you must be having a knowledge of reading the non-verbal communication and body language. Let me share with you. During my military career, I hail from Army Aviation. So I had the sort of opportunity that I did my flying instructor course from PF Academy Risalpur, and then I remained after being alumni of that place, I remained a faculty over there. On joining that place, I found very interesting thing, and that is there was a board lying or placed outside the flying instructor school, and there was a very strong caption which I would share with you, and I am even following it till today. And that reads, every flying instructor is supposed to be a psychologist too. Once I converted from military profession to management in early 2000, I made an amendment in the same statement that every professional, may he be the corporate, may he be the, what should I call it, public sector, or even from NGO, their knowledge, their emotional intelligence, which is basically this knowledge is part of that, and their human psyche, the ability to read the human psyche is one of the strongest tool one carry, because that this tool basically enable you or tell you that what is cooking up in the mind of so and so, irrespective whether he or she is not coming out with. And then the body language, the non-verbal communication itself tells you that. I give you another aviation example. Whenever we used to fly our student pilot, and quite oftenly there have been occasions, once my student approached, having seen his body language, I thought that probably either he has got some mental pressure or he has not had enough sleep, which is required for this flying activity. So I had to tell them, gentlemen, it appears that you are mentally and physically not fit to undertake a 1 hour flying lesson. So let's not waste your time, time of the state, and even my time. We might as well fly tomorrow. So this ability basically tell you, and this answered the question which has been put by somebody, that how do you apply this emotional intelligence while you are in the armed forces. So this is the ideal which I am telling you. Well, I can't say that everybody has that understanding and everybody applies it in accordance with that, right? Okay. Now, recognizing the emotional trigger in this, we can say that in certain situation, you don't have to prick or provoke. And quite oftenly, in certain cases, there is a very decent way of identifying something. Yeah, please hold your questions, as one of you have already said that we'll be having a Q&A toward the end of the session, and then we'll be talking about that what are the queries and what are the. So what I'm trying to say at the moment is that your emotional reaction after this proportion to the immediate situation, it has to be of the human beings. We should not, under no circumstances, follow an instant response, thinking that my not responding instantly might as well turned out to be a weakness, and they might as well think that dar gaya hai, bakri ho gaya. No, the more time you take, the more stable you go, the more stable your response is. I am sure the other person, he may not be acknowledging it in front of you because of certain ego problem, but in his or her heart of heart, they would be acknowledging, yeah, he has been very mature in responding to this situation, and this would basically fetch you a long-term benefit while maintaining the whatever type of relation you are enjoying with them. Next, please. Next slide. Okay. So this model is basically a self-discovery tool, and this tells the individual that how to understand the self-perception. One thing, let me share with you. The perceptions are more dangerous than the ground realities. You would agree with me, because, they are not visible. They are in the mind. And the most dangerous part is once we perceive someone negative, and then we start responding to that negative with further negativity. So this needs to be taken into consideration, that whenever we should be going for an open and hidden. So try to perceive the mental state, try to empathize, try to read the body language, and then plot those words which have been, let me share with you another personal example. In my whole life, ever since I got into a professional world, I mean, of adolescence, post-adolescence, I have a habit which I am following until today. Whenever I find somebody behaving little abnormal, which is not expected out of that lady or gentleman, so instead reacting, branding, and labeling that person a bad person and whatever, I try to find out and I try to track back what could be the reason of this behavior. And let me tell you one thing: if you take this much of pain and you go for the logic or for the reason which led to that situation, I am sure quite oftenly, instead responding aggressively or instead responding in a very, very harsh manner, you might as well start feeling sorry for that gentleman or lady, and you might as well become sympathizer, and you might as well offer your services to help him or her to get out of this situation. So as regards leadership is concerned, if we talk of leadership, you know, clarity, brevity, accuracy are the three fundamental traits which every communication must have, may it be a verbal communication, may it be a written communication, may it be a audio communication, or may it be a video communication. Clarity, we all are very clear. It has to be clear. There shouldn't be any ambiguity. There shouldn't be any dual meaning interpretation out of that thing. Second is brevity. Brevity has been taken away from brief. Your communication should be crisp, clear and brief. आपने quite often देखा होगा सोशल मीडिया पे आजकल लोगों को थीसिस अपलोड करने का बड़ा शौक है. At least I don't read that. And if at all I have to read, if I see the sender is a very reasonable person, I start from the start and I go to the end. I leave the middle body. You know, you have to take into the consideration that your communication has to be having the met parameter of a brevity. It should be brief enough, understanding enough, and at the same time, then I have told you clarity, brevity, accuracy. This is again a very, very important. If your communication contents, again, it could be any of the three mediums, if they don't carry the accuracy, if these days it is very difficult to find out that what is right and what is wrong. Let me share with you, I don't think that any one of you is in contact with me on my social media or even my WhatsApp. I have developed a habit over a period of time. Firstly, I simply don't believe on forwarded as received, for the reason I draw your attention toward your Islamic studies which we had. In one of the hadiths, there was a mention कि किसी झूठ के लिए के झूठा होने के लिए इतना ही काफी है कि सुनी सुनाई बात को आगे चला दे. And forwarded as received is exactly the same thing. Just imagine the vision. Just imagine the vision of our Holy Quran and our teaching that 1400 years back, it was identified and perceived that a time is going to come where people, without verifying, without knowing the exactness or without knowing the accuracy of the information, they would be trigger happy and they would be sending it. So what I follow, and I would like you to follow, take out that post aside, find out the link which would basically tell you that what is the veracity, what is the logic, what is the actualness behind this post. If you are convinced, then you can always share. And otherwise, anytime you have got even iota of doubt, you should be just holding on and you should not be getting into it, because actually you are violating that famous hadith that you are becoming that person who has been identified a Juta, who is forwarding the thing without verification, like a trigger happy soldier. Next, next slide. Okay. Difference between control and suppression. Here, I can always refer it to someone pointed out about that. How do we do the leadership and all that? So, control and suppression are two different things. Sometimes we basically interchangeably use them and we mix them and we think that probably suppression is a control. आप लोगों ने being a management student, you must have heard the management principle, which starts from organizing, staffing, controlling, leading. So control function is one of the most and foremost function, and it should not be converted into a suppression. Suppression is that you are controlling the people, you are trying to control the people on the basis of not knowledge, or not on the basis of motivation. Rather, you are suppressing them in a different way, in forcing them that they should basically listen to you and follow you. So we must be very clear. In our country, our 90% problems are attributable to, I'm talking of social problems, poor control. Why our traffic is rowdy? Why our traffic is uncontrollable? Because control function by the police is a weak one. And at the same time, there is a need that people should be first make to understand the better right and wrong, and even then they do it, then they are to be taken to the task. But one should be very clear that control function doesn't mean that you start suppressing the people, because by using a suppressed approach toward the end, you would not be finding a long-term effects. Rather, there would be a sort of a situation where you would be finding that people are just doing it in your presence, and once you are not present, it's not being done. And then is pause, reflect, respond, cognitive framing. You understand, I have already shared with you that whenever you get something which is unwanted and which is haunting you, which is not liked by you, so don't follow the response which is being followed by the non-humans. That would basically give rise to a starting counter allegation, counter allegation, and toward the end it might as well go to any extent. So giving a pause, reflecting and responding, and then using your cognitive knowledge. Cognitive behaviors basically are those behaviors which are the essentiality, or which are in essential given to the human beings. And the more you make use of your cognitive abilities, cognitive behaviors, the better society it would lead to, and you would be finding that your all the perceptions, all the behaviors, all the patterns would go positive if you are following the positivity of your cognitive behaviors. But wherever you go and you disregard them and you go sort of a reactive, repulsive, and of course, then you would find that there is something wrong somewhere, and things are not moving the way they are designed to be moving. Next, please. Okay. Mindfulness techniques, basically, these are the practices which are involving the focusing on the present moment without judgment, enhancing the awareness of thoughts, feelings, and bodily sensation. The bottom line is that you should be very, very mindful in a way that these practices can be incorporated in everywhere. आप एक वर्ड हम बहुत रेगुलरली यूज करते हैं, बी माइंडफुल. What does that mean? And we quite oftenly quote that mindfulness basically gives you a better. So basically, mindfulness has got a direct relation with your meditation, with your breathing exercises, with the stability of your personality. The more stable is the personality, the more professional and more stable would be the responses. आपने quite oftenly देखा होगा बड़े educated, cultured और उस type के जो लोग होते हैं, they don't get into the foul language. Irrespective, if I share with you, there was a very, very top of the line personality we had in our society with the name of Dr. Pitras Bukhari. At one point in time, he was principal Government College Lahore. And one day, one of the lower staff, most probably either he was office orderly or security person, he misbehaved with him. And he just kept quiet. The moment other people said that he has been so rowdy with you, so unkind, and you just kept quiet and you kept listening, his response was that I have a lot to lose by getting into discussion with him or getting down to his level. Whereas as far as he's concerned, he has got nothing to lose. So ये mindfulness है कि आप जब किसी के साथ जाएं और उसके अगर वो आपके साथ इंडिसेंसी का और नॉन प्रोफेशनलिज्म का मुजाहरा करता है तो नेसेसरली यू डोंट हैव टू गो डाउन टू हिज और हर लेवल. You have to maintain your own level, and that level of grace, that position of stability, toward the end of the day or in the long run, it is going to fetch you a very, very good position, and people would appreciate that despite having all the you can say opportunities to respond back in the same language, he and she remained very composed, very sort of a cool. You know, quite often हम एक दूसरे को कहते हैं so and so is a very cool cat. Cool cat means कि he or she doesn't get attracted by the remote of others. You know, there are quite a few people in your life, within your class, within the society, everywhere, who try to trigger your emotions, because you have to respond them through your being a composed person, and at the same time make sure that your remote is always in your hand, not in anybody else's hand. If you manage that, you maintain your own remote and you manage it in accordance with the things which we have talked about, I can assure you, you would never end up in any of the embarrassing situation or any rowdy situation which can fetch embarrassment and which can bring a bad name to your personality. Next, please. This is almost more of a repetition which we talked about, that reading emotional cue and body language. You know, agar aap dekhein, if you just correlate in this acting, may it be drama, may it be film industry, आपने एक वर्ड सुना होगा quite oftenly कि एक एक्टर सीनियर एक्टर को कहता है कि आप मुझे क्यू दें ना तो मैं फिर अकॉर्डिंगली रिस्पॉन्ड करूं. वो तो एक प्रोफेशनल क्यू है, लेकिन यहाँ पे जो हम बात कर रहे हैं ये इमोशनल क्यू है कि आपको जब किसी इंडिविजुअल की इमोशनल क्यू आइडेंटिफाई हो जाए, मे बी थ्रू द वर्ड्स he or she has started using, maybe through her body language, his or her body language. This session is a little less, maybe I can share with you, you know, for every action or every mindset, there is a body language. Once you are couldn't care less, you would be standing in a different fashion. Once you are very formal, you would be making a different posture. Once you are angry, you would be making a different posture. So the more you know about those postures, then it would be an opportunity which would be provided to you, and you would not at all be taking any wrong step or wrong decision, knowing well that individual is emotionally upset to the hilt. And if you trigger him or her by not being cognizant of his mental and physical state, the answer is going to be a big bang, which none of us is going to be expecting and looking forward for. Empathetic leader, again, building trust. You know, what is leadership? I just tell you, in our flying business, there is one type of flying which we call it formation flying. And formation flying has got one very, very killing rather rule, that if you are a wingman with a leader, and if God forbid your leader is hitting the ground, you should be having this much of trust on your leader. You must also hit the ground along with your leader. So I'm just giving you a very, very ultimate example. This is basically the height of trust on the leader, that you think. And then, हमारे पास, we are so lucky कि हमारे पास हमारे faith related जो history है हमारे पास, उसमें we have got so much of examples. Let me give the example of Hazrat Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that before even inception of Islam or wahi ke nazil hone se pehle, people used to call him Sadiq and Amin. That was the amount of trust they had on him, and they used to believe that this gentleman, may peace be upon him, would be the last person to go wrong. And then we have seen so many incidents in our history where the people have been throwing trash on him, and he has been looking for the welfare of those people. So we need to keep this thing in mind, that at times a rowdy person, an emotionally unstable person, a person who is having a very, very deep emotional instability, if he or she is treated in a rather decent manner, or in a manner where he or she gets this impression that we understand your mental state, we are here to help you out, why you are behaving like this, what has made you behave like this. If you achieve that, I am sure the half of the problem would be over. And this is how you can always carry out an empathetic leadership, where you should be predictive about the behavior of your team members. Before they bust out, you should be knowing who is likely to bust out, and you must have to take charge of him before a scene is created and your leadership is compromised. Next. Effective feedback and conflict resolution. Feedback is one thing which forms the backbone of any communication. आपको मैं एक एग्जांपल देता हूँ, यार मैंने उसको काम कहा था, उसने जवाब ही नहीं दिया. यार, look at him, he even didn't bother to tell him what is the progress. I'm talking in the social life. Same way, people are equally expecting a feedback. There is one term we use in the professional world, interim reply. Even if you don't have the completion report with you, you must engage them in a feedback, give them feedback in a manner which is known as interim reply, that we are in the process of doing this thing. The moment we are done with the complete, you would be the first one. Without any further delay, we would be sharing the things with you. And I can assure you, your interim reply is going to give hell lot of a satisfaction to the person who is basically waiting for your reply, for your response. And at the same time, in conflict resolution, no response is basically a root cause to giving rise to a conflict. If you quite oftenly, or जिसको एक पंजाबी में या उर्दू में कहते हैं ना कि you keep them engaged, maybe in certain, I'm not teaching that, but maybe in certain cases by giving them false promises. The objective is to avoid the conflict and to keep them engaged and gain time so that you can complete that thing and then you can share. One more thing is, I'm a very strong practitioner of this. If you don't hide anything and be a very truthful and explicit, sharing your problems and shortfall at your end, there would be very less people who are not going to buy it. Otherwise, invariably people, they tend to buy it, and they give you the margin for that, and they say, we understand your limitation and no issue, we'll wait for that response. So effective feedback and conflict resolution needs to be very well taken care of before it is too late, and your poor feedback might as well give rise to a very, very serious conflict which may not be able to resolve and might as well cost hell lot to the individuals and to the organizations. Next. Okay. Now we will be talking about your EI growth plan. Quick self-assessment of EI component. A quick self-assessment is typically focuses on 4 components: self-awareness, self-management, again self-awareness, self-relationship management. These basically, let me share with you the, the most layman language for any definition of emotional intelligence is: know yourself very well, know your shortfalls, know your strong point very well. At the same time, know the environment in which you are operating very well, know the mindset of people you are interacting with very well, and having taken all this into the consideration, your अगर आपकी जो response होगी, that is going to be one of the best EI driven response, and you would be finding that it would not be having any negative fallouts, and invariably you would be getting a good acknowledgement from the people who are involved. So knowing yourself is important. Knowing the people around you is equally important. Knowing the requirement of the environment is equally important. And last but not the least is acting in accordance with the expectation, requirement, and of the situation. But let me clarify one thing. By acting in according with the expectation of the people doesn't mean that you compromise on professional integrity. What is professional integrity? If you are a finance person and your opinion on a particular finance function is asked, you should not be talking, however, more or furthermore, or not looking toward the boss that what is in his mind and what exactly he is expecting from me. You should be very confident that this is my subject and I am supposed to be honest to my subject, and you have to give them a very, very right answer. Let me share with you a historical event. I should have not shared otherwise, but since it is part of our history, so I can share with you. If you people are, I don't know how many of you are aware of that, the famous incident which took place on 12th November 1991, once the flight coming from Colombo of the then Chief of Army Staff was prevented not to land at Karachi. I was in Army Aviation and I was heading one of the aviation outlet in Karachi. My corps commander called me and he asked, how quickly can you reach Nawab Shah? Because that aircraft was made to divert to Nawab Shah. Abhi, here comes, I'm not saying any self-praise, here comes my professional integrity and my organization loyalty. Before he asked me anything, I just told him, sorry, sir, what you are planning is not possible. He, for a moment, lost his temper. What the hell? I didn't tell you. I'm just asking you. I said, I know what are you asking and what is the implication. But the speed compatibility between my aircraft and helicopters and between the Airbus is so variant that by the time I would be there to do the thing which you want me to do, it would be too late. So what I'm not trying to give you this example out of self-praise. I'm trying to give you that you have a loyalty to your profession and you have to be loyal to it. You don't have to give that decision which your boss is expecting, and then in turn you want to earn his pat. Dekho, maine usko kaha tha, it was not possible, but he agreed. So please avoid that. You have got a very long future. This is one trait or tendency which can put you in a very, very embarrassing situation in times to come. Then identification of strength areas for improvement. This is very important. Like if I tell you that whenever I remained, after having done my master's in HR, I worked for about over 20 years as of now in different organizations in Pakistan, out of country. हमारे HR में एक function होता है, we call it compensation and benefit management. Right from my days of school, I was not very good neither in arithmetic nor in mathematics. So I have identified this as my weakness. And by virtue of being head of HR of any of the organization, payroll management, and the head of HR is supposed to be the signatory of the payroll through which the pay goes to the complete organization. So having identified this weakness of mine, wherever, which country, wherever I used to go, मैं अपना HR operational manager और ट्रेनिंग मैनेजर और बाकी जो मैनेजर थे वो कभी इतना ठोक बजा के नहीं था सिलेक्ट करता जितना C&B मैनेजर को सिलेक्ट करता था. एंड क्वाइट ऑफनली, I mean, I'm again sharing with you a lighter note. Whenever they used to bring that for my signature, so I used to tell them, be watchful. I have got this much of balance in my account. उससे बड़ा घपला ना करना, which I will not be able to sort of manage financially. So just a lighter note, I'm trying to tell you, अपनी weakness को identify करना, उसको protect करना और उसको expose ना होने देना is one of the EI trait, and it is one of the responsibility of all of you that you should control yourself in this regard. जी next जी. अच्छा, इसमें journaling, coaching, feedback, value tools, they all are basically emotional intelligence tool. They basically enhances your self-awareness by helping individual and to understand their behavior and emotional pattern. By the way, you people must be knowing that there is one function in HR which is being performed by every HR, but just as a lip service. They call it OD and B. OD and B stands for Organizational Development and Behavior Management. So now the organizations have started hiring the organization psychologist, जिनका काम है कि वो लोगों को बॉडी लैंग्वेज, नॉन वर्बल कम्युनिकेशन, उनकी सारी चीज़ों को अट्रैक्ट करें, टैप करें और फिर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन को गाइड करें कि what are the things which are leading to high turnover, which are leading to negligence related accident, which are leading to absenteeism, which are leading to the additional medical bills for the organization. So this all needs to be done. And one very important thing, again, which is lacking in our Pakistani environment, and that is mentoring. I wonder if you are familiar or you have seen this thing actually happening. Mentoring is, there is a difference between mentoring and sugar daddyship. शुगर डैडीशिप ये है कि जी आप एक अपने किसी रिलेटिव, लव्ड वन, डियर वन को आइडेंटिफाई कर लेते हो और उसको अगेंस्ट द मेरिट, अगेंस्ट द डेवलपमेंट यू ट्राई टू पुश हिम और हर. नो, that is not desirable. Mentoring is that you find a potential in a particular individual, you identify them, and you take that person as a mentee on board. That I take the responsibility of your professional development, your professional growth, and I would be the person who would be responsible for your further growth and all that. I mean, without getting into the sort of a self-praise, once the way a father is the happiest man on God's earth, once his sons or daughters do a good job, nobody else would be that happy. Let me share with you. May it be uncle, may it be auntie, anybody, because they would be comparing their own children. Only your actual parents would be the persons who would be highly happy and who would be looking forward that you should be doing better than them. Nobody else. So same way, you should be keeping this thing in mind that if your mentee, if you have been adopted by somebody and somebody has taken you on board as mentor, and if you have adopted somebody, the success of mentee is basically indirectly your success. Keep this thing in mind, and I'm sure that things would be very straight. One more and last thing which I want to share with you before we go for Q&A. Keep one thing in mind. The biggest reward giving trait in any of the human is to be truthful. If you are truthful, you don't have to concoct the story. You don't have to make the excuses. You don't have to give different cock and bull story. Whatsoever is fact. And let me tell you one thing. I was in PDCL, and long time back, I'm talking of 2011-12, we did an inquiry and we found there was one boy who stepped forward and he said, sir, यहाँ से लेके यहाँ तक मेरी डोमेन थी और इसमें मेरे से ये गलती हुई है, which I am confessing very boldly. And then he said कि इसके आगे की जो गलती है मैं उसका जिम्मेदार नहीं हूँ. Can you imagine? I'm not again showing self-praise. I took a stand. I said, we want to set an example. I would make sure that this boy is not going to be harmed for just one trait, that he has been truthful. And I want that across the PTCL, starting from Gilgit Skardu down to Karachi, or rather this message must go, that if you say truth, if you share truth, you would not be harmed. You know, I had to go to the company president to get this thing done because people were saying, no, this is not. I said, no. You know, why I was so overlooked on that? We must look around and we see how many truthful people we have around us, including ourselves, and how many people have got the moral courage to say truth. There are very few. You know, just keeping quiet is again being partially non-truthful. So keep this in mind. Be transparent like anything. Be explicit like anything. Identify yourself. आपका एक हमारे हेलीकॉप्टर्स में, अटैक हेलीकॉप्टर्स में मेनली एक फंक्शन होता है, we call it IFF. उसको कहते हैं आइडेंटिफिकेशन ऑफ फ्रेंड एंड फो. उसको मैं प्लॉट करता हूं on this, and that is that you should be very, very clear about your strong point and weak point, and you should be like a good finance manager. एक window dressing की terminology ये use करते हैं finance people, कि show your strong foot and try to hide your weakness, and apply the same thing for others, for your subordinates. Instead, exposing their weakness, help them in hiding their weaknesses and controlling their weaknesses. That's all I have to say. Now we can get into question, and I would rather like that whosoever has a question, please come out audio wise so that I can respond. Because we have already overshot the time, so I will not go for the recap of the takeaways. One more thing, I don't believe in copyrights. I'll share this slideshow with your Buraaq representative, and you have got all the rights to have a copy from her. And I have already shared my, rather I would share with her my email address. I am very, very prompt in responding to the professional query. Anybody, anytime having any professional problem, I'll be more than happy to help them. Yes, please.
Guys, if you have
जी आफ्ताब साहब क्या क्वेश्चन है आपका?
raise your hands or you may send those in chat box.
Thank you, sir, for answering, sir. Was
I'm
there
not
any
getting
moment?
either your question nor voice.
Was there any moment in your
आप
military life?
कुछ कहना चाहती हैं, but I am unable to interpret. Can you write down if I'm not getting your voice, if possible?
Sir, no worries. I'm
Okay.
just talking
Rahmatullah,
to the
I
participant.
come back to you. First of all, एक चीज ध्यान में रखिए, हमारे मुल्क में एक बड़ी अजीब किस्म की मिसअंडरस्टैंडिंग है about the discipline. We call ये परेड करना, right left करना, salute मारना, we think that is the discipline. No, that is not the discipline. The discipline definition with me is, if I'm referring to, first of all, punctuality. This is one of the part of your being disciplined. Punctuality की definition मेरे पास ये है, wherever you are supposed to be there, you should be there minimum 5 minutes before the actual time. If you manage that, I'll rate you the most punctual person. Now, coming down to the staying organized, I would, you all understand what is project. Consider yourself as a project and start doing your own project management. I give you one example, like, personal example, invariably might as well give to few that impression, yaar, ye self-praise kar raha hai, but it might as well help quite a few people to sort of understand. I give you my personal example. Unfortunately, while I was in uniform and I was in aviation business, God was very kind, foreign training, assignment, whatever. One fine morning, God was not willing, and I had to lose my flying medical category because of mishandling of one of the doctors once I came back from flying. Long story, don't want to get into that. I was just 41 years of age, and I lost one career despite having done, not self-praise, have done bloody good in my career, right? So there, and I was very conscious of one fact, that is that there is a very famous saying that if you want to kill some aviator, don't shoot him, just put him offline, he or she is going to die his own death. This was a general perception. So under this over consciousness, at the age of 41, I'm talking, referring to that question related to staying organized. I said, I have 4 years at my disposal to sort of improve my academic knowledge, my profile, so that I should become a competitive resource if Allah has given me a life and will keep giving me life before I cross 45. So this was a benchmarking which I did for myself as a project. And then in the process, by the way, जब आपकी नस्ट होती थी लालकुर्ती में, तो उस वक्त मैंने नस्ट को ज्वाइन किया इनिशियली एज, मैंने 2 सर्टिफिकेशन की, और अगेन नो सेल्फ प्रेज, based on that certification I was taken on board as a alumni, as a faculty for one particular subject, and I started teaching. And then I did my master's in HR, and then I found that one benchmark of going getting all these things before 45 was managed. Then I disregarded all the offers which Uniform gave, because of during the days of Musharraf Sahab, we were seconded to the civil. I refused all of them, and I got into pure corporate civil world, remained in Pakistan, remained in Africa, different countries for about 7-8 years, UAE, came back. So my first advice to stay organized is, please make yourself a project and start saying, after this degree, first of all, you have to make sure that whatever degree are you pursuing, is it your aptitude? It is never too late. If not aptitude, you can adjust yourself. Go for the specialization which is in accordance with your aptitude. Then after doing the base degree, instead of, sorry for using a wrong word, instead of wasting time on MPhil or PhDs, stay focused on basic core degree and certifications. I have seen people with PhD degrees are coming to me and they are struggling to earn their bread and butter. Because, you know, the more qualified you get, the less susceptibility of you in the corporate world or in the professional world it goes. They think, yaar, ye PhD hai, ye to matlab humare. So you keep strike a balance. अपनी क्वालिटीज को आइडेंटिफाई करें. सबसे पहला हमारा इमोशनल इंटेलिजेंस का कि आपकी स्ट्रेंथ क्या है, आपकी वीकनेस क्या है. अपनी स्ट्रेंथ के मुताबिक, मेरी तरह जिस तरह मैंने बताया कि फाइनेंस वाज नॉट माय, इट वुड हैव बीन अ ब्लंडर ऑफ माय लाइफ अगर मैं फाइनेंस में कोई स्पेशलाइजेशन करता, तो आई वुड हैव बीन स्ट्रगलिंग ऑल द टाइम विद कंप्यूटर्स एंड ऑल दैट. ठीक है जी. तो आई होप यू अंडरस्टैंड दैट हाउ टू स्टे ऑर्गेनाइज्ड. अप्लाई project management techniques and tools on your own self. Benchmark 2-3 साल के अपने लिए बॉन्ड बनाए और उसके लिए गोल्स एंड ऑब्जेक्टिव बनाए और उनको सेलेक्ट करें on the basis of smart goals and objective. They should be simple, they should be measurable, they should be attainable, and they should be time bound also. Only then you can stay organized and proceed further. Gee, anybody else? Ji, what is your question, Ji? Sorry, by the time I read the complete line, so the question is gone.
Yes, sir. Can I ask a question?
Okay.
Hello?
Aftab Afridi, Laiba, Jamil, and more have raised hands.
Yes. Can I ask a question, sir?
There is no way I can hear the voice of the people, or at least I must get to know that who is asking what.
Sure, sir. Thank
Any
you.
possibility? I am
Yes.
asking from the Buraaq team.
Okay, sir. This is me, Mohsen Hassan, Director of International English Language Academy, Islamabad. First and the foremost thing, I really appreciate.
Yes, why not? Let me share with you this. Somebody has asked that where did you apply emotional intelligence during your military career? I was in Malakand, and we had a soldier who was not sort of a mason by profession, but he was a mason by aptitude and by experience, right? So this is the answer to that. Where did I ever apply this in my professional life? That gentleman, I'm talking of 81, 82. That gentleman was newly married. He went on a 10 days leave, and we moved from Nowshera to Malakand. Malakand was an old fort of British days. So there was a lot of civil works which was required to be done during by that gentleman. So we kept engaging him. Whenever he used to come, he used to say, "Sir, my leave." I used to tell him, "Yaar, bas ye kar lo, phir chale jane. Bas ye kar lo, phir chale jane." One day he came, and just imagine the days of 81, 82. We were in Malakand, no transport. Even Maghrib के बाद मर्दान से आगे कोई चीज upward सवात की तरफ move ही नहीं थी करती. So he said, "Sir, I just want a weekend. Let me go." I said, "You are hailing from Jhang. You are in Malakand. Would a weekend suffice? Would that weekend serve your requirement?" And with due respect, I'll try to be sugar coated. The response which he gave, and then what was my response, I'll share with you. He said, "Sir, probably you don't know. मैं जब पिछले इतने महीने पहले 10 दिन की छुट्टी गया था, तो I got married. अभी मुझे weekend इसलिए चाहिए कि I want to go and I want to divorce my wife. Because उसका क्या कसूर है कि मैंने यहाँ पे काम कर रहे हैं." So based on that response, I said, "Damn with the work. You go on 2 months leave. I'll hold the fort and I'll get the things done." So that was one emotional intelligence application which I identified and I apply. That boy, even his children, he has been sharing this thing with them, and they remember that. So emotional intelligence has got nothing to do with your position, with your job title, with your status. It is whenever you empathize, whenever you feel the heat of a person, whenever you think that somebody is in need of your solace, please go ahead. This is what is all about emotional intelligence, purely from the leadership point of view.
Sir, can I ask a
Anybody
question?
else? I think short. We have rather short. Share my email address with the Buraaq coordinator. You can give me as much as question, my WhatsApp, my email, but I don't want to hold you now unnecessarily for time to. So I think it's time that we should conclude the session, and we might as well. I'm available if your team desire. We can have another session, and we might as well start with Q&A. जी, anybody else? जी,
Sir, can I
एहसान,
ask
आपका
a
क्वेश्चन
question?
मेरे पास आया ही नहीं, तो मैं किधर से उसका जवाब दूं? आपको मैं बता रहा हूं कि मेरे ईमेल एड्रेस पे मुझे वॉइस मैसेज करें, मेरे व्हाट्सएप पे करें. यू विल गेट a very, very satisfying answer from me. There would be no query available with you, and that satisfaction or that response of mine has got nothing to do with this session. This, I would be doing it as my service to the youth of Pakistan. Ji, Miss Buraaq, I
please
hope
see the platform.
it's time that we should conclude the session. Sorry for calling you Miss Buraaq, but it should be matter of pride for you. If I am identified Mr. Aviator, I would love to be identified as Mr. Aviator.
Sir, no worries at all. I will share the questions with you.
Take care, gentlemen, and if you people are in a position to note it down, I can spell out my WhatsApp. It is 0334 50 tetra 96. 0334 50 tetra 96. And my email is the easiest of all. My surname Malik, Malik, AVN. AVN stands for aviation, abbreviation of aviation, @gmail.com. Yes, done. This is the correct. So my email, I repeat, MALIK AVN. It's a continuous one word, @gmail.com. You will find me highly responsive, especially to the youth. I'm 24/7 available. Being a senior citizen, this is the least I can do. And secondly, my WhatsApp number, stay in contact, and whenever and wherever you need my support, I am available as a mentor. And I hereby make a very bold confession. All those who have participated in this session, they all are my mentees, and I am ready to become their mentor. Have a good day, good evening, take good care. Allah Hafiz.
Guys, I have taken the screenshots for the attendance. You may leave now. And if you have any questions, so you can send those questions. I will share. Sorry.
मतलब हम अभी क्लास लीव कर सकते हैं?
Yes, you can.
Okay, sure.